All right, so today's video is about fear, right? And where the fear came from, why we have the fear, and how to alleviate it so that it can stop limiting you and blocking you in your everyday life. And in my notes here, fear can limit you from fully experiencing life, whether that's travel, dating, love, exploring, chasing your dreams, success, authenticity, fully expressing yourself, being loved, releasing and leaving things that no longer serve you, change, starting anew, things of that nature. A lot of the reason why a lot of us don't go after our dreams, or the reason why a lot of us are afraid of, or don't necessarily aren't enthusiastic towards change or whatever the case, is because fear is in the way. And if we alleviate that one thing that's in the way, that's not even real, something that's made up by your mind, if you alleviate that thing, then I feel like a lot of us could be a lot more free in life to do whatever we want to do, regardless. Not fearing the other people's opinions, other people's judgments, not fearing anything. So let's just get started. One of the things that really, I guess, encouraged me to start this video or do more research on this is this book, Knowledge of Self. And it's by Supreme Understanding. Dr. Supreme Understanding. And it's a really good book. It's just a collection of different people that wrote different excerpts and whatever in here, and whatever the case. But this particular one is by, his name is Precise Infinite Peace Allah. That's his name. And so the title of it is What Do You Fear? And it's just like a brief, maybe three to four paragraphs. But he says, what is fear? Fear, by definition, is a feeling of anxiety, distress, or being afraid. The feeling may be based on current observation or a memory of some past observation or experience. This feeling may be based in actual fact, or it can be totally imaginary. Whether the feeling is factually based or completely imaginary, the result is the same. Left unchecked, fear has the ability to incapacitate. Let me reread that. It says, left unchecked, fear has the ability to incapacitate. Fear is so powerful, even when it's unconscious, it can deprive you of the ability to think and function properly, even without you knowing what you're afraid of. The thing about fear is that it's a learned response. I remember as a child in grade school going to the gym to get a shot. I remember I waited in line. As I waited in line, there were kids leaving the gym that were screaming and crying. I could sense their fear. Because of this, I too became afraid. I don't remember getting a shot before this experience, so I didn't know what to expect. I asked my classmate what was all the fuss about. I asked my classmate what all the fuss was about, and my friend told me shots hurt. Then the story of shots went from hurting to your arm falling off, swelling to the size of your thigh, pain that could make you go to the hospital, and etc., etc. The mental imagery was so intense that at that point I was just as afraid as the kids leaving the gym. Was my fear based in actual fact? Was I even aware of this fear until I started observing people with both my eyes and ears? The answer is no. In many cases, fear is a feeling we learn, planted in us. When we're young, either mentally, physically, or both, then the feeling is reinforced over time, so that when we're older, we still suffer from its effects. I commonly refer a treatment for fear as getting out of your own way. The problem is that people don't embrace fear. When a person becomes fearful, there are two ways you can handle it. They can handle it. They can either run or fight. Many people do not know how to use both these natural responses effectively. You have those who always run, and you have others who always fight. The key is to utilize both of these responses when it's proper. To begin making such a determination, you have to look, listen, and observe with all your senses. In the culture of I, God, this is, so if you know anything about like one percenters and things of that nature, this is basically what the people believe in the book. So it may be some terminology that sound interesting or different. Just keep going. Just stay with me. So in the culture of I, God, we call it doing the knowledge. This could even mean researching or studying what it is we fear. How many things are we afraid of that haven't even bothered to study? That we haven't even bothered to study. The more we learn about something, the less mysterious and frightening something or someone or some place becomes. All you need is the courage to do it. If there's something that really frightens you, do the knowledge to it. Whatever your fear is, whether it be spiders, witches, spirits, demons, dogs, change, snakes, or whatever, study it and learn about it. You might find that after you've investigated a person, place, or thing, it's not what you thought it was. You might find it's not as frightening as you originally perceived, and even if it is something you'll continue to fear, at least you may discover ways of dealing with it. Don't yield to fear just because other people do. Do the knowledge and learn how to deal with the fear. So once again, that is from Knowledge of Self by Supreme Understanding, and it's a collection of individuals who wrote different things in the book. So yeah, overall though, hold on. Yeah, I had the wrong thing here. But overall, fear, like it said, has the ability to incapacitate you. Fear can hold you back in life, basically, when it comes to many different things, many different topics. So what I want to do is explain how we came to develop these fears and also how you can alleviate it, right? So we were fed fear since birth. Then we internalized the fears of others, and now it transferred into our adulthood. The fear is limiting and blocking us from all the things that I mentioned before: travel, dating, love, exploring, dreams, change, whatever your fears are, And like I know people who are afraid of dogs, and they will walk home from school and there would be like dogs in a gate, in a fence, from one of the neighbors, and they would go all the way around their route just to avoid the dogs because it was, fearing them. That's an inconvenience. That is something that is unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? But since you have a fear of the dogs, you're going to go all the way out of your way just to avoid it. And that is what we would refer to as a phobia. When you avoid things, or when you go out of your way to avoid certain things, that could be classified as a phobia. But moral of story, this, like, even my grandma, for example, my grandmother, she's very, very fearful of snakes. She doesn't like hearing the word. She doesn't like seeing it in a picture, on a book, on TV. She doesn't like hearing the hissing sound that they make. She would we could watch TV, a movie, and a snake would pop up on the screen, and she would like jump and start screaming and panicking and all kind of stuff. That's a phobia. It's different from just normal fear. So regardless, I'm going to help you out with both, whatever you have going on. I'm not a doctor of psychology or anything like that, but I am studying psychology, and as I learn, you learn. So moral of story, a few ways that we have been programmed to fear things. I also want to give one more example too. Long story short, my cousin, his wife, they have a kid, and basically his wife fears bees, right? So whenever she sees a bee, she'll grab the kid, and they'll be screaming and running away from the bee, and they're like, oh my God, bee, and this and that. They sting you, it hurt, and this and that. So this is creating helping to develop fear in the kid, because the kid sees its role model, its mother, its protector, its guide, basically afraid of something, and it's like, well, if you're afraid of it, then I should be afraid of it too. That's basically how certain fears can develop, and basically the kid can grow up being afraid of bees all because their mother was afraid of bees. And the same thing happened with me and a lot of people I know. A lot of people that I know are afraid of bees. I had a bee land on me one time, and I just decided to observe it. Bees don't just randomly just go stinging every fucking body, because a lot of the times if a bee stings you, they die. So they don't want to sting you. If you fucking with it, or fucking with its home, fucking with its people, or whatever, its other bee counterparts, then hell yeah, it's gonna sting you. If you taking his honey and trying to knock his home down and slapping at him and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, the bee will sting you. But moral of story. And I'm not saying that there's no objections to that, or other people experiencing bees just randomly stinging them or whatever. The bee might have thought something and got scared or whatever the case. But the moral of story is that whatever, especially if you have kids, if you fear something and you like model that fear for your kid by being afraid of yourself and running away from it and screaming at it, then that fear develops into your child and that carries into their adulthood. And when that happens, then the kid, can pass that down to their kid, down to their kid, down to their kid, down to their kid, and their friends or whatever the case. And then it's unnecessary fear. Bees are amazing. If it weren't for bees, we wouldn't even be here, because bees provide, pollinate the plants and whatever the case. You get what I'm saying? But what I want to get to is that how to dissolve, well, not even how to dissolve, but how we come to develop these fears. There are many different ways. You have cognitive ways, of different ways of thinking that can fuck up that can make you different ways of thinking that can cause anxiety and make you fear different things. You have behavioral things that you were shown or things that were learned. You have social things that go into play, like your parents or friends or teachers or whoever demonstrating that this is something that you don't do, and so you don't do it because everybody else is doing it, things of that nature. But I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth. So I want to touch on the behavioral aspects and how you have different types of conditioning. Classical conditioning is basically, let's say, this was an experiment done by this guy named Pavlov, and long story short, he had dogs, right? And he noticed that when the dogs got the meat, it was like a meat powder that he was feeding them. When they got presented with the meat powder, they started salivating, like drooling for the food. And so he decided to pair this food with the bell. So every time he was about to feed them, he rang a bell, right? And he kept doing it over and over and over, right? And it began to condition the dog that if the dog heard the bell sound and there was no food, he would still salivate. And that is a conditioned response. He had no previous, if it weren't for the food, right? Let's say normally before all the conditioning, the dog would basically hear the bell sound. It wouldn't drool because it just is a neutral stimulus is what they call it, right? It wouldn't drool for it. But since he paired the bell with the food over and over and over again, repetitively, repetition is a key word here to reprogram the subconscious or to program the subconscious, right? Repetitively paired the bell and the food, then the dog associated the bell with the food. So it's like, I hear the bell, even if there's no food, I've already associated the bell and the food. So I'm going to salivate because I know the food is coming, because that's just what I've learned in the past. This is the routine that's been happening, right? So that is classical conditioning. You have a stimulus, which gives you a response, right? And over time, it can condition you. Another thing, this is another experiment. I can't remember his name, but Baby Albert was the experiment. You can just look that up. But long story short, he put a baby and a mouse there, right? The baby was not afraid of the mouse. No fear whatsoever with the mouse. Then all of a sudden, he would, every time the kid would try to touch the mouse, he paired it with a hammer sound. So he would be in the back striking a steel pipe with a hammer. And each time the baby tried to touch the mouse, he would strike it. And the baby would jump because it was startling, right? And then he did it each time. Every time the baby tried to touch the mouse, he would jump from the sound every single time. And he would do it over and over and over again. Repetition is, again, programming the subconscious. Subconscious is basically what you do on autopilot. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to change your habits, if you want to change things that you do, you have to change your subconscious. And the way to do that is through repetition. And so, long story short, he would strike the metal over and over and over again with a hammer and startling the baby. So now the baby has associated the rat with fear, because every time I touch this rat, I'm going to jump because I'm going to hear that hammer. And over time, he conditioned this baby to be afraid of anything white and fuzzy. So he was scared of Santa Claus's beard. He was scared of a fuzzy blanket. He was scared of all shit that didn't even have nothing to do with the mouse. But he was afraid of it because it reminded him of it subconsciously. And then as he goes older, we don't know what the fuck. I don't know if baby Albert's still alive. I don't know what the hell happened to baby Albert, but I know that as an adult, this can carry on into his adulthood. And now he can be afraid of all kinds of shit, white and fuzzy, and rats. And he was never afraid of it as a kid. He was curious. As a kid, he wanted to touch it and play with it. He was kind of looking at it and observing it. He didn't have any type of effect to it. But once he paired that hammer with it, that startled him, then he became fearful of it. And then later on in his adulthood, this could travel on into it. And next thing you know, he could be married with kids, a whole wife, and then a rat come in there and he just passed the hell out, scared as fuck. And that just comes from the conditioning that he had as a kid. And this happens to us all the time. That was an experiment and that was intentional, but this happens all the time in our childhood. It goes back to the example with the bee, right? It goes back to, let's say, as a kid, you got whooped for, I don't know, slamming the door or something like that. So now you're not going to slam the door. Even as an adult, you still don't slam the door because it's just like, if I slam the door, I'm going to get my ass whooped. And that fear program, that's actually operant conditioning. My bad. That's a whole other thing. I'm kind of mixing up the two. I'm just trying to stay on classical conditioning right now. But classical conditioning, let's see. I can't think of another example right now, but I hope that was what I said was helpful. Now, if we go on to operant conditioning, that's when you have punishment, reward, and reinforcement. So your behavior is either going to equate to a reward or a punishment, right? So, for example, let's say the dog hears a bell, right? I feel like that's a little too close to what we just did. Hold on, let me find another example real quick. Trying to find these examples like on the spot. I wrote a few of them down briefly, but I'm trying to get to it. Let's see. I think that was Monday when I researched that. Yeah. All right. So with operant conditioning, can't think of one, so we're just gonna go with the psychologist, B.F. Skinner, behavioral psychologist, right? He did an experiment where I believe he had rats in the Skinner box, right? It was like a box that he made, and it was like one half of it was, I think this is it right here. Let me see. Skinner box. I want to show y'all what's going on. So it was like a little box that he made for the creatures. Let me see if I can turn it around. Like that. That's what it looked like. Hopefully y'all can see that. It's similar to those. And so, turn it around. I got this thing on a tripod, so I'm like trying to get this together. All right. So, moral of story. They had the rats in the, my bad. Hopefully y'all can hear what I was saying. That was an example of a Skinner box that I showed y'all just then, if y'all couldn't hear me. But long story short, he had the rats in a Skinner box. And basically the floor had an electrical grid. Like it was, the base of the floor was electrical. And so each time the rat touched one of the buttons, it would electrocute the floor, right? And that's a punishment. And then if he touched the other button, it would give him food and it wouldn't electrocute the floor. And that's a reward. So over time, the rat would touch it, and he touched one button and he'd keep getting electrocuted. He like, ooh, I don't want to feel that no more. So he wouldn't touch that button anymore because he don't want to get electrocuted. But he realized that if he keep touching this button, then he's going to get food. And if he's hungry, he's going to keep touching this button so he can get fed, right? And that is operant conditioning. He conditioned this rat to basically not touch this button, because then you will have a consequence. You'll have a punishment if you touch this button. You'll have a reward if you touch this button. So he basically conditioned the rat to keep touching the button if he wanted food. This is a conditioned behavior. If he wants food, he knows that he needs to press this button. Long story short. And so that goes with anything. And that is the example I was trying to give before. If you get like whipped before as a kid for doing something bad, that's a punishment. And you realize, okay, if I do this, then I'm going to get my ass whooped each time. each and every time I do this action, I'm going to get my ass whipped. So I'm not going to do it anymore, right? You're going to either try to sneak and do it because you don't want to get caught and get your ass whipped again, or you're just not going to do it at all, right? And that is a form of conditioning you to fear certain things, right? Conditioning your behavior to react or act in a certain way or behave in a certain way. And that's just one way that we basically do it. That's one way that your fear could be programmed into you, or any type of action or behavior can be programmed into you. And next, you have observational learning. Observational learning is when organisms, and this is from my textbook. I don't even know what the hell it's called. I had to go back because I want to be able to cite all of this stuff. Yeah, it's called Psychology, Themes and Variations, written by Wayne Wainton, 10th edition. But long story short, observational learning is when an organism's responding is influenced by the observation of others, often called models. So you observe your mother's behavior, right? Let's say you are a girl, right? You're a little kid, and you are basically watching TV, and you see that this is a woman, this is a man, this is what men do. Men go to work, they work and they come home and they might fix a house, they might play sports, they might play with these certain types of toys like Hot Wheels or whatever the case. This is what boys do. And then you see that the woman, she cooks, she cleans, I'm talking about like TV shows, like sitcoms and stuff like that, like how they used to do it, families and shit like that, like Family Matters. I think that's what one of them was called. You know what I'm talking about, shit. All of those. So the women, she cooks, she cleans, she nurtures, she takes care of the kids, she stays at home, she doesn't work. And so, long story short, they're programming you to identify with a certain gender, and this is what your gender does, basically. And then you see it in your home. You see what your father does, this is what men do. You see what your mother does, this is what women do. And then you kind of associate, okay, which one am I? And you see that you're a woman, so you're like, okay, I'm going to do what the woman do. I'm going to observe what the woman does. And long story short, this is a way of programming your behavior. And tying that into fear, that goes with the example that I told you about earlier, when my cousin's wife, when she grabbed the baby and she saw the bee and she was running away from it, the kid is observing all of this. The kid is like, okay, my mother, my caretaker, my guide, my model, right, is the term they use in observational learning. My model is afraid of bees. And I think I trust my mother. My mother feeds me, she clothes me. This is my mom, she protects me. So long story short, I need to be afraid of bees. You know what I'm saying? So now the kid can develop a fear of bees by observing his mother being afraid of bees. And it just goes on and on and on. Also, thinking patterns, negative thought patterns, like it could be cognitive as well. Negative thought patterns can also trigger fear. If you are consistently thinking negatively, thinking worst case scenario or pessimistic thinking, can make you more prone to anxiety and fear. And same with if you have optimistic and more positive thinking. Even if you can program yourself to think more positively, or you can program yourself to think more negatively. And if people around you, which kind of ties into the observational learning, if people around you, like your parents, your family, your dad, your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your teachers, whoever, people around you in your family or wherever you grew up in if they're always complaining and always talking negative, thinking negative, saying negative things, and that can transfer into how you communicate. And then you can start thinking negatively. And it's something that you don't even realize is happening, but you're doing it because this is just what you've been around. This is what you've been socialized to do. So long story short, you can start thinking negatively, and then it can transfer into your adulthood. And when it transfers into your adulthood, then you're more prone to have more negative experiences because you think negative. Whatever you think, whatever your mindset is, that is what your reality will be. So if you believe that yoga is evil. This is just random. Like if you believe that yoga is evil, then every time you see something dealing with yoga, you're going to associate it with something evil or demonic. And you're going to associate those people with something evil and demonic. And what you're going to experience is that as your reality, when you could be open-minded to it and say, okay, maybe it's not evil. You can try to test it for yourself, study it for yourself, see where the origins are, see why people do it, see the benefits of it, the cons of it, the pros and cons, whatever. And you can learn it for yourself and say, this is actually not as evil as I thought. And yoga could actually be something that is good for you, that helps with your breath work, that helps open your lungs, that helps with flexibility, that helps with strength, that helps with having arthritis and tightness in your body, whatever the case, right? Helps with the blood flow, circulation, all of these things. It can help with mental clarity and everything. And so you can be open to that. You can have that experience in your life, or you can have the experience that limits you from not experiencing those things, So and that's what I mean by fear being a limiting factor in your life and how it can be fucked up. Yeah, fear can protect us in certain circumstances. Like if we see a lion, it's just like, oh shit, what do? You run? You try to fight it? What do you do? Fight or flight. But you have to know when to use it and when to not use it, and when certain things are just ridiculous. Like, yeah, this lion can eat me and fuck me up, so let me get the fuck away from it. Opposed to this bee is this fucking small flying around me. It can sting me. I may be allergic to it, but let's see, maybe it will only sting me if I provoke it. Maybe it will only sting me if it feels threatened. Things like that. And then you can avoid those things rather than being afraid of the bee altogether. So now that I've gotten that part out of the way, I kind of already got into it for real. But I just want to briefly tell you how you can basically alleviate the fear. Exposure therapy and CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. And you can do cognitive behavioral therapy on yourself, because I have. Like I said, I'm not a licensed doctor or medical doctor or anything like that, psychologist. I'm not any of those things, but these are things that I have done in my own life. And I like to think of myself as fearless, although I do experience fear when I get, I'm afraid of heights, I guess you can say. I do experience fear when I get on high things, but I do it anyway, because the more you do it, the less you fear it. But the more you expose yourself to it, the less you fear it. So regardless of that, I want to tell you how. Okay, so cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah, there is cognitive behavioral therapy. Damn, that man tall as shit. Sorry. There is cognitive behavioral therapy that you can actually go to a therapist and have that experience for yourself if you would like. But if you don't want to pay for a therapist, or if you don't trust therapists, or whatever your reasoning is, you can do it on yourself. And it's basically when you fear something. When it's your thought patterns, right? So it goes back to the negative thought patterns. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I'll get. All right. So we're gonna talk about Ellis's ABC model, which is basically something that can help you alleviate your negative thought patterns. I really didn't know I was gonna be getting into all of this today. I just pulled my camera out, and this is where I ended up. So give me a minute, y'all. Give me a minute. Okay. Yeah, Ellis's, I think his name is Albert Ellis, but don't quote me on that. Just type in Ellis's ELLIS ABC model, and then you can get more for yourself. But basically, you have an activating event. This is A, activating event. Let's say you get stood up on a date, right? Then you have B, your belief system. You can have an irrational appraisal or a rational appraisal. Appraisal is how you basically appraise the event, how you what beliefs you have of the event, right? And how basically you appraise it. If you don't know what appraisal means, just look it up, because I can't explain it right now. But long story short, activating event, which is A. You get stood up on a date. And this could cause stress. I got stood up on a date. We planned to come here, and now they're not answering the phone. Now they're not here. I've been waiting for 30 minutes. They still not showing up. 2 hours I've been here, and they still not here. So your belief system, B. You can have an irrational appraisal, which is, this is terrible. I'll never find anyone. I can't believe this happened to me. And da da da. That's a negative thought pattern, right? You can have a negative belief about it, which will lead to emotional turmoil. The consequence, which is C, the consequence could lead to emotional turmoil. Now you feel angry, anxious, etc. Or you can have a rational belief. Go back to B, the belief system. You can have a rational appraisal, which is, this is unfortunate, but someday I'll find someone for me, right? And that will lead you to emotional calmness. You'll still feel annoyed, but you'll remain hopeful that you'll find someone else. And that just goes for everything, right? So the same thing with fear. Like, let's say activating event. Let's say you see the bee, right? You see a bee, and you can choose to believe it in a negative way or a positive way. You can have negative thoughts about it or positive thoughts about it. And let's say you think about it negatively. Oh my God, there's a bee. The bee is gonna sting me. It's gonna my arm's gonna swell up and I'm gonna die. Oh my God, there's a bee and this and that. And now the consequence is you're having emotional turmoil. You're scared to fucking death. You panicking. You flying away. You might cry. I mean, not flying away. You're running away. You might cry. You might knock over some shit. Knock over a drink. Spill the drink all over the table. Knock the table down. All of that shit because you had this negative thought. Or you can choose to have a positive thought. All right. This is a bee. This bee is way smaller than me. I'm a grown ass adult human, and this bee is the size of a fucking almond, right? Or not even that size, really. Tiny ass bee. Yes, it has a stinger, but if I don't provoke this bee, if I don't give this bee a reason to sting me, then maybe it won't sting me, right? Maybe this bee would just wants to fly in my face to see what I'm doing and fly away. Maybe the bee is curious. Maybe the bee thinks I smell good. Things like that. And then that will lead to emotional calmness. You may still feel a little anxious, like, oh my God, there is a bee on my arm. What the fuck do I do? But you're thinking positive thoughts. Okay, this bee won't sting me. Yes, there is a chance that the bee could sting you, but we're trying to think positively. We know that the bee can still sting us, but if the bee stings you or if not, at least you were at a calm state. You know what I'm saying? You were at a calm state at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, I had a cousin. He went through some things I won't talk about, but he went through some things and he was stressing about it because he didn't know what the outcome would be. Just stressing, anxious about it. And I'm just like, bro, the outcome will remain the same whether you stress about it or not. And that's just facts. What you can raise your blood pressure, raise your heart rate, and speed up your aging and all of that shit by stressing about some shit. Or you can just say, you know what, fuck it. It is what it is. The result will remain the same regardless if I stress about it or not. So let me just relax. Let me go get some fucking coffee, some tea, a smoothie. Let me kick my feet up. Let me get some coconut water and let me just relax. I'm just fucking relax because that's all I can do until I get the answer. And that's the same thing with the fear thing. You can stress about it. You can sit there and panic and fear, or you can just relax and, let the outcome be whatever it is. And with cognitive thinking, with the cognitive behavioral therapy or thinking or whatever the case, you have an event, that's A, activating event. Then you have the belief system, which is B, and then you have the consequence, which is C. The event, the stimulus is going to happen. Things are going to happen in the world. People might slap shit out of you. People might be mad at you. People might not like your outfit. People might judge you. People might talk shit about you, whatever the case, right? Things happen in the world. You might get into an accident, God forbid, but you might get into different things. You might have different things that stimulate you in the world, right? You choose how you view these things. You can view it, you can appraise it negatively, or you can appraise it positively. You choose. Whichever way you choose to appraise it will be your consequence, right? Let's say you do get into an accident, God forbid. Let's say you do get into an accident, and then you think, oh my God, I can't drive, this and that, and my insurance is gonna do this and this and that, blah, blah, blah. You can think all negative, you can be mad, you can cuss the people out, and now these people, you cuss these people out, and now they got a gun, and now they shoot the shit at you. Now, trigger warning, sorry if that, whatever, I don't know, but they can beat your ass, they can take their car and ram your ass, they can fucking do whatever, you know what I'm saying? Let's say you appraise it rationally. Let's say you're like, okay, I got into a car accident, maybe next time I slow down, make sure I look. Maybe this person just wasn't looking, whatever the case. Let me just relax. Let's, weigh out our options. What can we do here? What can we do about the situation? Right? Now, your situation, you're emotionally calm. Your emotions follow your thought patterns. If you have negative thought patterns, you have negative emotions. You have positive thought patterns, you have positive emotions. Hope that was clear. But yes, you can utilize this way of thinking to alleviate your fear, or at least figure out ways of dealing with the fear so it doesn't limit you. And so, yeah, that's one way of dealing with it. Another way is that you have exposure therapy. Now, you can actually go to a therapist, a real therapist, and you can get this exposure therapy done. Aversion therapy is also a thing. You can get these things done by a real behavioral therapist, or you can attempt to do it by yourself, or you can find someone that you trust to help you out through this process. But long story short, let's talk about aversion therapy, right? Aversion therapy is basically, you can make, that has something to do with something else. I'll explain it though. Aversion therapy is basically, you want to stop drinking alcohol, so you make yourself disgusted by it so that you can stop drinking. Or you want to stop eating, you want to become vegan and you want to stop eating meat. You make yourself disgusted by eating meat, by looking at the parasites in the meat, looking at the health effects of the meat, of eating, processed foods or whatever, by looking at, whatever the case, and making yourself, and watching it on repeat, and making yourself so disgusted that you don't even want to eat the shit anymore. But that's a whole other thing. I'm sorry, that's off topic. What I wanted to talk about is exposure therapy. So exposing yourself to it repetitively so that you can either alleviate or figure out ways of dealing with the fear. So I have a fear of snakes, right? I don't even want to say I have a fear. I had a fear of snakes. Snakes still freak me out. You get what I'm saying? If a snake just fell out of the fucking sky, of course, it fell onto my lap, of course I'm gonna fucking jump, because what the fuck? Why the fuck did she just jump on my lap? But, if I see a snake in the middle of the road, my first initial response may be, oh shit, but now I can kind of look at it and be like, okay, this is a snake, and I can observe it, I can look at it without immediately running away, crying, pissing on myself and all of that and shit, and I can, whatever. So what I did was I watched a documentary. Well, first of all, I looked at pictures of it. I looked at pictures of the snake. And when I looked at the pictures of it, I then started learning about different types of snakes, which snakes are poisonous, which snakes aren't, what the signs are of a poisonous snake, what the signs are. I did this because they have like a triangle shaped head or whatever, like venomous snakes and things of that nature. I started just kind of researching them. And then I watched documentaries about snakes. And I'm like, okay, snakes are actually, they have different skills. They're actually really good at climbing. They don't have no fucking arms or no legs, but they can climb up some shit. There's like one fat ass muscle. And I started seeing things that are actually pretty cool about snakes, like different facts about them. And, I felt, once I started researching it and looking at it, I kind of felt like I knew it in a way. Like I felt a little bit more comfortable because I exposed myself to it. You get what I'm saying? Like I tried to understand it rather than just running away from it. What would make a snake bite me? What would make a snake eat me? What locations would I be going in where a snake would actually just fucking eat my ass whole? Like, I'm looking at this shit and I'm like, okay, well, I would just avoid those types of situations so that I won't end up in those. Or I would learn how to, if I did get bit by a venomous snake, what are things that I could do to, save my life in that case? You know what I'm saying? So I'm researching all of these things. Then after I'm researching it, after I've like acquainted myself with it or whatever, I went to a pet store to hold a snake. I'm fucking terrified of snakes. But I went to a pet store to hold a snake. I was scared. But since I, did the research on it, I kind of felt familiar with it. You know what I'm saying? Even though I was scared. I held it. I was looking at it. I took a picture of me holding it. And I was just looking at his face. And he was calm. He was just looking at me like, why are you holding me, bitch? I'm asleep. And it was cool. You know what I'm saying? So, and I did that. And the more I expose myself to it, the more I go and touch snakes and pick up snakes and learn about snakes, the less I will fear them. It's about repetition because we're reprogramming the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind was programmed to fear the snake. It was a conditioned, learned response. You don't come out of the womb like, oh my God, snakes. You do that because you see everybody else afraid of it, and you had these responses, whether it's classical conditioning, operant conditioning, observational learning, cognitive thinking, whatever the case, whatever is, you had this experience. You're fearing this. It was, sorry, I lost my train of thought. You are basically fearing this because it was programmed into your subconscious mind. And you can program yourself to be unafraid of things. You can program yourself to be different if you want to. You know what I'm saying? But you have to want to do it. You can't just force somebody into doing it. You can't just force yourself. You have to actually want to do it. And, whatever the case. So, moral of story, you can apply this to anything. Whether you're afraid of bees, whether you're afraid of change, whether you're afraid of traveling, whether you're afraid of planes, relationships, build relationships, get into relationships, and learn how to communicate, learn how to have a healthy relationship or maintain a healthy relationship, learn what a healthy relationship is, learn different attachment styles, learn yourself, what you need, what your needs are, what your values are, what you love, and things of that nature. And then expose yourself to dating. Let yourself date around, talk to people, see, people there are going to be activating events. If we go back to the cognitive thinking, there are always going to be activating events. There are always going to be stimulation or things that happen. It doesn't necessarily have to be happening to you. It just happens. It's life. Things happen. There are always going to be things that happen. You have the ability to, appraise how you want to, whatever, and go about it however you want to. But the point is, you expose yourself to these situations, whatever you're afraid of, you know what I'm saying? And the more you expose yourself to it, the less scary it gets. The more vulnerable you get, like with the relationship thing, if you get vulnerable with people, some people might laugh at you. Some people might do that. Some people might betray you, abandon you, whatever the case. And some people may not. So the point is, the goal is to always, I've started losing my train of thought because my battery's dying, but just be open to exploring it and allowing yourself to experience it. And the more you do it, the more you expose yourself to it, the better and the less you will fear it. The more you will be able to figure out ways of dealing with it, so that when it does approach you, when it does come up, you're not trembling and pissing and shitting on yourself all at once. And that's just that. So I hope this video was helpful. If you would like to see more videos like so, not necessarily surrounding fear, but surrounding personal development and becoming a better person overall, reaching your highest potential, self-actualization, follow me. I'm on the journey of self-actualization. I don't know everything, but as I develop and learn things about myself and about the world, I will feel free to share it with y'all. So peace. Oh, also sign up for my blog, my newsletter. I'm just getting back in the motions. I've just moved to Thailand from America, so I'm trying to get adjusted to everything. Just got my crib, getting my visa together and shit like that. So yeah. And that was a fear for me, moving all the way across the country, solo, alone, by myself, not knowing anyone, not ever being here, and just fucking coming on a 30-hour flight all the way to Thailand, getting me a crib where I know no one. That's a fear. But the only way to get through it is to go through it. And that's that. But yeah, peace.